Ah, there's nothing like a freshly formatted SD card. We have a project for today. Some of you may remember the chair that I called the steampunk chair, which is this thing right here. Its steampunkness has kind of gone away over the years, simply because things have been breaking on it and whatnot. But this was kind of, I guess, utility chair 1.0. I bought it from someone years ago, and it had a whole bunch of like really ornate metal work and stuff on it. Like, let me turn on my lights. If you look back here, you can see there's like some gear sprockets on the back wheels. But after the old greed van tried to kill me a number of years ago, and I was sitting in this thing driving the van, it kind of tweaked the frame, and the batteries are stuck in there, and the whole seat kind of leans to one side now, and it's just not really safe to use anymore. So the plan for today is we are going to basically take this apart and use it for parts. Anything that's left usable, I'm gonna hang on to, and anything that's not is going in the dumpster. By the way, I don't sell parts. None of the parts are for sale. If I throw something away, it's no good and not usable. And stuff that is usable, I hang on to because I have a fleet of chairs to maintain. So yeah, no parts for sale, nothing like that. At this exact moment, however, the batteries are completely dead. It's got group 34 flat tops in it. But this gives us a unique opportunity to see if one of the Victron battery chargers can recover batteries that are at 0 volts. The batteries in this thing are from 2013. And up until recently, they were working fine. I just forgot to charge it. Actually, I think I left the LED lights plugged in on it and ran them down really dead. And then I didn't charge it for a long time. So anyways, we're gonna grab the Victron charger that I use on my F3 every night and see if it can do anything. Although first we should probably check the voltage. Speaking of recovering batteries, this is the battery pack out of the GoGo Traveler Elite that I have. We replaced these 6 months ago now, and I forgot to take the batteries off of the chair, and it got them down to 5 volts. So we've got the 12 volt Victron charger here, and it's been running for a couple of days. I've got them in parallel. I hope they're okay, because I spent $100 on those. But anyhow, let's grab the Metorb here. And we are simply going to jam the probes down into the charging port on this thing and see what our voltage is. Survey says 2.6 volts. Now we grab the Victron 24 volt charger and see if it can do anything. Now, extension cords are kind of my arch enemy, and also I'm exquisitely lazy. So instead of running an extension cord over here, we're gonna cheat, We're gonna cheat a little bit with this here EcoFlow. Lithium iron phosphate to the rescue. Yeah, we've got 100% battery, excellent. Now it's currently sitting here idle at 28 volts, but let's plug this in and see what happens. The chair blinked on once. Oh. I don't know if you could hear that. It was clicking on and off. I think the charger might see it as a short circuit, actually. Yeah, the charger is now off. Actually, I remember that now. The chair was clicking on and off a whole bunch last time I was attempting to use this. But yeah, the charger is definitely not happy. It's not even powered up and won't connect to the app. Yeah, I think this charger is just seeing it as a dead short. Just for funsies, let's try our 24 volt jump starter box, made into sort of a wheelchair jump starter here. Hopefully bad things don't happen. I think you can hear it clicking. I think what we're gonna do is turn the charger back on and then try to quickly swap the cables here. And we'll turn it on so there's a little bit of load, and then maybe this charger, yeah, there we go. I should have tried that before, turn it on. Okay, we're putting, I don't know if you can see that or not, but 28 volts at 0.6 amps. I'm gonna let this bake here for a few minutes, and then I'll come back and see what happens. Sometimes when I'm trying to recover batteries, I've found it helps to run the seating a little bit. Let's see if we can get the seat lift to work. I'm sure these ICS buttons are all gummy by now. Oh, yeah, that's like pretty broken. Let's see, mode. Okay, let's see if this does anything. Okay, you can see our amperage goes up there while the seat lift is running. Lights are on, 0.6 amps. Like I said, very good chance that's just the draw of the power of the control system, but we're just gonna leave this for a while. I'm gonna keep my nose peeled in case anything starts smoking, and then we'll come back to this in a little bit. Oh, and this is another good time to illustrate. When you have a chair with batteries that are really low, you're gonna get a whole bunch of errors that don't really mean anything, that just happen because the batteries are low. Like it says JSM system error 8111. So, gonna get a lot of that. If you just got a new chair and you're trying to figure out if it's working or whatnot, you got to replace the batteries, or at least put some known good ones in there, because you'll get a whole bunch of errors that will just go away as soon as it has proper voltage for all the modules. So if you're buying something used and you try to get it kind of powered up or whatever and it's throwing a bunch of errors, there may not actually be anything wrong other than needing batteries. Fast forward maybe 4 minutes. It says we're outputting 47 watts. And this thing is now up to 1.4 amps. It went into absorption mode. That's something else that happens when you're trying to charge old damaged batteries. Let me just reset this real quick. Here we go. The voltage will artificially get higher than it should be, and the charger will think it's going into absorption or float mode or something like that. And like I was saying, one thing that helps with a lot of this, it's not going to switch right now, but if you run the seat lift up and down or just move the chair a little bit, and then keep it charging, then move it a little bit more and keep charging, you can kind of like slowly get the batteries to cycle a little bit more. But it's not an exact science. Another 5 minutes later, we're up to 2 amps. I should also specify that when you have batteries that are this low and have been sitting uncharged for a long time, even if they're gonna be in good shape and they will be able to be recovered, this is not the way to do it. You shouldn't recover them in series. They really should be taken out of the chair and charged individually. Then put them back in once they're both equalized and you're good to go. But we're basically gonna be taking this thing apart and throwing it away. So we're just kind of testing this out to see how it works, but not the proper way to do it with a set of batteries that you want to try and save. Just making sure nothing's getting too crazy hot down there. And about a half hour later, we're sitting at 4.8 amps. I don't think I really have a plan to try and recover these batteries. I just wanted to see if this charger was capable of bringing them back from 2 volts or whatever it was. And it kind of seems like it might be. We've got other issues going on with this chair that's making it like power cycle. Here, if I turn it off, it'll probably, yeah. It starts doing it again. And then usually at some point the battery charger will detect a short. Yeah, so there's other issues going on, but apparently if your batteries are at 2 volts, one of these Victron chargers will probably be able to get it going again. But once again, the safer bet is to just pull them out and charge them individually. Anyways, it's like 6:30 at night now, and I think I'm gonna pick this up tomorrow morning. I'm kind of looking around the chair trying to figure out what I want to save and what I want to get rid of and all that. So anyhow, yeah, I think we'll reconvene in the morning. Alrighty then. I have been told it is now the next day. And one last thing with these batteries, then we're gonna move on to kind of tearing stuff down here. Oh, and by the way, I can't remember if I recorded it already, but this chair has 5,295 miles on it. This is the second set of motors. I've got over 3,000 miles on this setup. I did do the conversion with the 120 amp RNet module and the newer style 6.5 mile an hour motors. Normally the C300s always came with the 5 mile an hour motors, which were not quite as efficient or powerful. I did notice last night that this motor is leaking, which, you know, is always a thing that happens, but we're gonna check our battery voltage. I charged this thing for a few hours last night, and it's just been sitting here. So I want to see if one of the batteries is significantly lower than the other after it's been kind of, what's the word? Sitting for a while, stabilizing, equalizing, I don't know, whatever. So 12.12 and 12.14. Is it possible that these batteries are still fine? I stopped charging them last night because I saw like a little bit of moisture or something down here, and I thought maybe the battery was leaking, but then I found out it's this motor. So anyways, we're going to start, I guess, by unhooking the main controller here in the back. Seeing as how I didn't have any of the plastics on this chair, I kind of used a bunch of hot glue to hold everything in here. But the nice thing with hot glue is you can use isopropyl alcohol, which I have here in this little glass jar, and you can use that to release the glue, basically. This is just one of those things you use to refill ink cartridges and stuff. It's not actually sharp. But let's get some isopropyl alcohol down here in a few spots, and it usually just kind of magically makes the stuff come loose. I'm gonna try and get these motors off of here. Today's Thursday, so the live stream's in a couple hours. But what I wanna do is try to at least get the motors off and see if we can kind of take a look at those and see what's going on with them. And see if we can maybe figure out what seal is in the gearbox and if we can rebuild them. Because the motors on my F3 are basically the same as these, and they need to be, well, have new seals attached anyways. Yeah, look at that. A little bit of alcohol and all the glue just basically magically releases. It's kind of cool. I can't remember at this point what I've said or haven't said that I've recorded, but I think the idea is we're going to try and use these electronics on the forefront one and see if we can do an R-net swap on that chair. Because I keep forgetting I have that, and I think that might make that chair significantly more usable. I guess there's no bolts at all holding this in. It was just zip ties. So there's our R-net controller. I peeled all the stickers off of it for more of an industrial look. I think we should be able to get this rear battery out of here. Let me get this disconnected. And I want to see, I think this battery will come out. I can't remember if it was the front or the rear one that was stuck in. So let me get this loose real quick. These were always tricky to remove even when the chassis of the chair is not bent. Ooh, let's try not to bend the case of the battery. I don't remember how you get these things out of here. I just realized. So it's not like compressed in there. I mean, you can see some stress marks on the side of the battery, but yeah, the bottom of the frame right here is pushed up. So we can't lift it up enough. Maybe, can we bend this down a little bit, maybe? It's galvanized steel, but it is very solid. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to remove the back suspension and pull this bar out of here. The bottom of this is bent up enough that you can't lift the battery up, because it normally has to kind of come up, tilt, and then slide out. But this being all bent down here, yeah, you can see some impact marks on the batteries. It's not leaking, but, and I added these springs at one point. They do look cool, but they also serve a function to keep the back of this all from rattling. Everything keeps fighting me, so we will also worry about that later, and let's move on to some wiring. These C300s were a bit interesting when it comes to the ICS seating module and whatnot. They just fold up all the wires and stuff them down here inside the chassis. I think this wire right here is something I added. I think it was for the lights. Regardless, we don't need it anymore, so Clip that. Then got some more zip ties. Then you just kind of grab this stuff. Oh, that's from the crash in the van. Huh. I was just sitting right there. I wonder if I got more metal parts down in here and that's what's making this thing behave strangely. We'll find out. But there's kind of some Velcro, and you pull it off and then try to get all the wiring out without it getting crazy damaged. Let's pull our battery cable out. It's really kind of a mess the way they designed this. And our motor cables are right here. Those don't come out, so oh, there we go. There we go, see? It's a wad of wires and electronics. Lift, let's pull this off. Yeah, I don't see any metal in there, so that's something. Seeing as how we're taking everything apart, we can get rid of our cable tie here, unplug all of this, make it a little bit easier to deal with everything. Yeah, even these old school ICS seating modules have the lighting headers right here. So built-in light functionality is something that has been on Permobiles for a long, long time. So this is 2G seating. It has the plastic. Well, that's wobbly. It has the plastic on the back instead of metal. And inside this cover are a bunch of digital to analog converters that are used to control the seating actuators, because this is kind of an older system. It was sort of positionally aware, but also kind of not. We'll get up there and take that apart in a little bit. The seat back has to come off and you go in through the front to get to all these. There should be a connector here that we can take these apart with. Oh yeah, there it is. It's like I've been in here before taping this up. Yeah, that's the thing. When you just fold up a bunch of wires and stuff them into a metal box that has a bunch of sharp edges, it just seems like a bad idea. I don't know. Yeah, I had to zip tie all these together too, in multiple ways. There's usually a little plastic clip thing that holds these connectors together, but they tend to break. But we have Anderson mini power poles for the motor, and then just a little Molexy style thing for the brakes here. And that's our motor pigtail. And this may or may not fit through this hole. Hey, there we go. But yeah, that is one nice feature with Permobile motors, is they pretty much all have removable pigtails. This little part comes out of the motor, but then you're able to replace the rest of it. A lot of other chairs, the motors, or the wiring coming out of the motors is all one thing, all the way down to this connector, and there's no way to replace them. So yeah, something. Oh, we wanted the other one off of there. Eh, whatever. I think we should be able to get this battery out. Oh, this thing still has the easy lock bracket on the bottom. That's probably why we can't bend the frame. Can't bend it back, rather. Anyways, get our last battery cable off. The way this is supposed to usually work is you can get something under the battery here to kind of lift it up in the front, like so. Then that lower lip comes right over the front, and you can just kind of slide it out like this. But if that lower plate is all bent up out of shape, then there's no way to get it out. And also, the floor is still destroyed. I wanted to get this done before that work was done. Last week, the snowstorm kind of threw a wrench in the works, but tomorrow night, they will be out here for sure, and we will, well, they will get to work on replacing the floor. Let's see, do these have a date code on them? These are from September of 2013. They still work. That's insane. I guess there's the saying, they don't make things like they used to. Interesting. You may remember this chair from such films as the $91 off-road chair. Now, the oil leaking out of this one, I think it's a different seal that's failed as opposed to my F3, because the leak is coming from the gearbox area. And on the F3, it's coming from the back of the motor, which means on that chair, the seal between the motor and the gearbox has gone bad. But on this one, it's something up here, or conversely, there could just be some dirt or some hair in this output shaft seal, and that would also cause it to leak. The bolts that hold this whole sort of anti-tipper mechanism on also hold the motor to the chassis of the chair. And I should have put on gloves. This is all very filthy. Ew. Gross. I was gonna look for something to put this on, but the floor is coming out tomorrow, so whatever. Yeah, that's that mineral oil or whatever the stuff is Permobil uses in these things. And the last one. I usually kind of put my hand on top and hold the motor up with my thumb while I get this bolt out. Then, with your other hand, you can grab all of this and set it somewhere. Okay. And got our wiring loose, so you can just kind of do that. Let's see here. Oh, it might be the... Actually, it looks like it's the back cover seal on this thing. The case splits right here. There's a big O-ring down in there. So, actually kind of looks like that might be our problem on this one. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but there's just oil like flowing everywhere right now. It is only on the gearbox though. This section is completely dry, so that is good. We just have a mechanical leak of some sort. Things start getting sketchy when that fluid makes its way into the actual motor. Then we start getting destruction of things happening. This motor output shaft seal right here is fine. All right, cool. It is entirely possible that we could just pull this cover off and reseat the O-ring or replace it if need be, and everything will be fine. I do not know what oil is in here. I will have to phone a friend and see what he says, but I'm not seeing any mechanical damage to this. Yeah, the plan, like I said, is to see if these will fit on the Quantum Forefront 1. The motors are eerily similar looking, the way they're laid out. Maybe if I want to get sneaky, I could get some sort of tray or something to put this in. And maybe we can try to take it apart on stream. I don't know. Usually the streams are pretty good with chaos. By the time you're seeing this, you'll know if it's happened already. But yeah, things have escalated in here just a little bit. All right, well, I'm gonna kind of clean up some of this stuff and get ready for the stream. Then we'll pick back up with this later. But for right now, I think you might be able to see here. This is our easy lock bracket, which is still on the bottom of this chair. And on these chairs, the way they're installed is, well, the frames of these chairs, as you can see, are riveted together. Same with the bottom. But to install these, you have to drill out the rivets that are down here on the lower part of the chassis and put this big metal plate on with these bolts. I think I actually have a video installing it on this chair, come to think of it. If I can find that, I'll put a link for it up above here and down below. I don't know what YouTube's doing. There used to be a little thing right up here in this corner where you could click on it and you could do in-video links, but they've made everything so confusing now, it's hard to tell, but check the video description. I'm now realizing I don't have a Hoyer here to take the seating off with. We're gonna pretty heavily disassemble that, so maybe we can wrestle it onto the ground, I don't know. That'll need to be today though, after the stream, because like I said, this is a rare opportunity with completely destroyed floor to just take this all apart and not have to worry about it. I would never do any of this after the new floor is installed. I mean, look, can you see that? The whole thing's just moving. All right, the live stream is done, and we did wind up taking apart this motor. And as it turns out, it was simply a damaged O-ring. It's gonna be hard to see on this camera, but there's a spot right here where this part of the O-ring was sliced off. After looking at this, it appears as though this was probably damaged as it was installed, but it just took a number of years and heat cycling and whatnot to actually start leaking. So pretty much all of the oil is gone out of here. You can see it's kind of dirty. I don't know how long it's been run without oil in it. It's probably been leaking for a while, so probably got some bearing wear and other stuff going on here. It was funny though, on the live stream, I was trying to figure out what kind of lubricant is used in here, but then an eagle-eye viewer happened to notice that right here on the end, it shows exactly what lubricant's supposed to be used. Now that has been superseded by some other stuff, and that stuff is about $30, $35 a quart, and it's basically a synthetic machine oil. But seeing as how this is pretty old and I'm not going to be using it daily, I'm just going to get some synthetic, like, lighter weight gear oil, which, I mean, gear oil is still pretty heavyweight, but we'll just put some random stuff in here. I'll clean it out, put it all back together, get a new O-ring, and we should be good. It's probably going to be a little while yet before I wind up installing these on the forefront, but assuming they even work, regardless, we'll just get the new seal, fill it back up, and we should be good to go. And coming back out here to this thing, I was trying to figure out what to do next. We need to get that rear battery out of there, and also this swing arm. These bolts are really difficult to remove. Last time I wound up having to use some bolt extraction pliers to get that fastener off the swing arm. I was trying to decide if I need to save those swing arms. I guess I don't necessarily, but I think we're gonna pull the motor off the other side and then probably start disassembling some of the seating stuff. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm gonna leave the other motor on and the jack, holding it up for now because it makes it a little more stable. So we're just gonna go ahead and grab some of the seat control modules out of the back of the seat. This just Velcros on. And that's pretty cracked and worn out, so that's going into the dumpster. Then we have the seat back here, which on the 2G Permobiles, it's made out of plastic. It's been a while since I pulled one of these apart, but we have this little latch right here. And there we go. That allows that to kind of come forward. Then, I don't remember if it's required for taking this off, but we have these thumb screws here. So we'll loosen these, and these are usually captive, so they should loosen and just kind of hang there. And then, oh yes, we have some hardware right here that has to come off. Appears to be a 10mm nylock on the back, and then we've got an Allen cap screw or bolt. So I'll just loosen these up. And then we just have a big fender washer and sort of a little bushing that slides in that slot and another nut on there. We'll hang on to these because 2G seating parts are hard to find. Same thing on the other side here. And the bottom of these plastic seat backs are held on with a couple more clips. Looks like that one has already come off. And there's another one over here. Then our seat back should, there we go, just kind of lift off of here. Now, I don't have any other 2G chairs right now, but I'm probably gonna hang on to this because it's not cracked or anything. And it's one of those parts that you probably can't buy anymore. So underneath this back cover here is where a lot of our seating controllers and stuff are. Yeah, and it looks like the infrared receiver for my RGB lights is here as well. So we got a couple of, well, oh, that's it. So the thumb screws on the back here, looks like I had to put a nut on this one. The thumb screws on the back are what hold the top of this on. And then we have these two 3mm Allens here, which just kind of slide on. Looks like this should just lift right off. There we go. Then there's a weird vinyl fabric flap. And underneath here, oh, I've got a power converter in there, my LED lighting controller, a bunch of wiring for the LED lights. Then we have one of our digital to analog converters, and we've got two angle sensors over here that bolt on. Actually, I lied. I do have another 2G Permobil, so a lot of these parts will come in handy for that. But yeah, if you're ever trying to figure out seating issues and it feels like you can't find some of the modules, it's because they're under here. Can unplug these guys. Oh, there's two of them. There's the two analog to digital converters. I think they have a different name than that, but that's just what I'm calling them. This was before they had the smart actuators that could decode the, I think it's an I2C network that the ICS uses. But these things basically take the communication signal, which is power wire and or power ground and data, or power negative and data. Wheelchairs don't have grounds, and convert that into the actual motor output, which actually runs the motors. And then these, I believe, yeah, those are screwed in. They're kind of obnoxious to remove. Let's get our multiplier block out of here. So to clarify, there's 3 connections to each of these. We have, it's basically getting power from the ICS bus. Then we have the output to the actuator itself. Then we have the communication input as well. If I recall, I think this whole plate just kind of comes out of here somehow. And this should kind of come off of here. Sort of. Zip tied everything in here pretty heartily. There we are. There's that back cover. This one's pretty broken. Then here's a plate that all that mounts to. It looks like it's just floating on the bottom. So if we remove, oh, they're Phillips. Remove these Phillips screws right here. We should be able to just pop that whole thing out as a unit. These LED lights do still work, by the way. I don't remember if I captured them on video earlier. And that all comes out of there. Here's the 2 angle, oh, hang on, spasms. Here's the 2 angle sensors I was talking about earlier. Those are kind of a rotational positional thing. The ice maker, it's making noise. And it's got the little vinyl flap over the top there. Looks like it's just kind of glued on. I'm just gonna cut these LED light wires for now. Those aren't too hard to wire back up later. And lots more zip ties everywhere. Man, so many wires on these older chairs. It was before the actuators had built-in communication, so we needed all these extra modules and sensors and everything. These all unplugged. And a lot of these RNet cables and ICS cables are old enough that the rubber's starting to get pretty brittle on them too, so may not be able to put these back into service. If anything, I can probably just cut off the ends and use them for other projects, but this chair's getting pretty old at this point. Let's see, what's next? I guess maybe the joystick? Armrest here with a joystick mounted on it. I think what I'm gonna do is leave all this attached. We'll just pull this bolt out, and then we can kind of keep everything as a unit. Is it 6mm? It is. Oop. As I recall, these are also tricky to remove. Keep almost knocking over the camera. So this comes out. We have a spring washer and a sort of a slidey friction washer thing. Words. And I can just kind of tilt that back, pull this off. Gonna put all these back on here. And you can see on these older chairs how they kept the armrest from flopping back all the way. they have this little piece of metal right here, and it interfaces with this. As you flip the thing back, this basically just catches on that and keeps it from tilting back all the way. And the positioning belts, these have a weird little latch. It's best to use a flat blade, get it underneath there, and you want to pull out and down on the bottom of it, and it will pop right off of there. And typically going to be a 10mm bolt, I believe. Yep. Loosen that just so it moves. Rail cap comes off. This will slide right out. And it's just standard hex nut in there. And we're going to take off these rails on both sides. These are very handy to have for many different projects. It's going to be a two-handed operation though. Oh hey, welcome to the next day once again. So we have this thing here. I just pulled the bolt off the recline actuator, so that back is kind of laying down now. But at this point, I need to get this thing tilted so I can get to those front two bolts. So we've got our Victron battery charger here. And the nice thing with most of these is they have a power supply mode. We can go in here to the settings and then function as charger, and we can just go power supply. And that makes it just output either 3 or 8 amps in this case as a power supply at 25.6 volts, which you can also adjust. Now let's see if this does something. Okay, I heard something happening and we got some arcing. So let's reverse the polarity. Hey, it worked. It looks like it's having the same problem that it used to and not wanting to go up. There we go. Sweet. All right, that should be far enough. Yeah, then we're gonna take out these two bolts, lower it back down, and then take out the back two. I found with a lot of these bolts, as long as you make sure that the socket is actually engaged in there, giving it a bit of force, just like hitting it like that, gets it to come loose a lot easier. Okay, now we can hook the power supply back up and lower this down. Never remember the polarity. There we go. If we do this properly, I think we should be able to tip this forward and stand it up on its foot plates. Should be fully disconnected. As it would appear. Once again, floor is getting replaced in a few hours. And there we go. I don't think I'm gonna, should I save these swing arms? I know I'm not gonna be able to get those bolts off though without extraction pliers and maybe drilling, so I don't know. That seat lift is also hosed, by the way. But here we have what's left of our seating. This is very carefully balanced on that hinge point. Oh, I need to take this off for sure. Now this was very early on for Permobil and their actuator positional awareness. You can see our main actuator right here, but then there's this extra rod. And the idea with that was, I don't know if they have like a carbon resistive wiper in there or how this thing works exactly, but this extra rod right here was intended to detect the position of this actuator. And there's some more electrical connections down there for that. They were saying all these actuators are barely working. I've had to take them apart, file the bevel gears, put new grease in, knock crap out of the brushes. They're just this thing's super old and worn out. So I think at this point, just to save weight, I'm gonna pop the seat lift off of there and then grab a few other little bits that I'm gonna save, and we should be ready to hook this into the open top dumpster. And of course by that, I mean take it to the recycling center. Oh look, it's my apartment with no floor. So they started installing the new flooring, and turns out it was exquisitely crappy. Like, they pulled the fridge out, cut some of the planks and put them in there, and like 2 or 3 of them broke just installing them. And then one of the neighbors came over and was talking about how his floor is also falling apart. So we've decided to change directions, and we are just gonna seal this slab, and we're leaving the bedrooms and the bathroom alone, but we're just gonna glue down some transition strips, leave this stuff as it is, and then we're gonna use some water-based sealer on this floor here and call it a day. We glued down the edge of the edges of whatever's there. There's glue under that. Put the batteries on. That's for some weight so it'll dry. And they're gonna run and grab some more supplies. They're gonna get this all cleaned up in here. And then just throw on some water-based sealant. And we got some trowel marks here from when this slab was poured, but yeah, I think it should be fine. The flooring they got, the price, it was like $2,000 for enough flooring to cover this, and the stuff's falling apart while they're installing it. Yeah, oh, actually here, we have examples. So, this is the flooring they were gonna be installing. It's what was in here and is in the rest of this building. It's 6 mil, like pretty thin stuff. If you try and bend it, it just snaps in half. But this padding on the back is basically non-existent. It's almost like a piece of plastic. This is some proper life-proof flooring. And the thickness, I think you can see there, is significantly more than this stuff. Here, we can do a little side by side here. Yeah, so you can see the difference there. And this stuff has proper, like, sort of foam or rubber padding on it that is actually compliant, like probably a millimeter worth. This don't have that. So this stuff apparently is way more expensive. And then we've already got the rest of the apartment. I can't really tear up the bedrooms and stuff while I'm living here, because all of my stuff that was in here is now in both of these rooms. As you can probably see, it's a little bit full in there. So yeah, we're just gonna go concrete slab, and then eventually when I move out, they can put the crappy flooring back in. And ooh, coffee. Well, here we are after a couple of hours, and this water-based whatever has dried. You can see the floor is a little shiny. It was a sort of, I forget what the name was. Not semi-gloss, but not matte, somewhere in the middle. But yeah. Seems to be a floor, and it will serve my purposes. We got the transition strips here installed. I'm gonna come back and cut the adhesive off of those. But you can see there, that works nicely. Transitioning to the old crappy floor that's still in there. But we'll just leave all that alone until I move out. And now I can get everything out of all these rooms and move back into this hoopty. So much stuff everywhere.